just want more of, and I think I'd be able to do that as a supporting actor. I'm writing a little something right now that is, I don't know, is an ensemble, but it's, I like that he's isolated.
Welcome back, everyone. Big surprise, Ryan Reynolds saying that he's already writing what would essentially be Deadpool 4, or the next Deadpool movie, whether you want to call it Deadpool and Wolverine 2. That's the big joke, is that they would just do another Deadpool and Wolverine type of movie. But the way he's talking about it, he's already working on a new ensemble film for Deadpool in Marvel Phase 7 after Avengers Secret Wars. So we'll break it all down, because this is in addition to a lot of stuff that he's said since Deadpool and Wolverine came out and made crazy money. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. A lot of what he's said in the past is that he does want Deadpool to be more of a supporting character in whatever this next project he's working on for the character is going to be. This is also probably how he reveals that he has Hugh Jackman trapped in one of his basements and just lets him out to do movies every once in a while. Blink once if you're fine, and blink twice if you need some help. But the way he talks about in this new interview here, like it's a much larger interview for a lot of the side business he does in real life outside of his acting work, all the Deadpool, the Marvel-related stuff. He owns like 6 billion companies, which is why you see him always doing advertisements and commercials that he posts to his YouTube channel for that stuff. During the interview, they specifically talk about the X-Men era of the MCU, all the X-Men-based films that they're going to be working on after Avengers Secret Wars, starting with the big X-Men reboot. Like, it all starts with a core X-Men film and then introducing a bunch of new versions of the characters. Given what he says, I think it's pretty easy to assume that one of the earliest plans they have is to just cameo the character in a couple of those X-Men-based movies, in addition to what's happening with Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. He even talked about it with Andrew Garfield in another interview recently, where he was also asking Andrew Garfield on his side of things about coming back as his version of the Amazing Spider-Man in upcoming movies. Just a couple of longtime actors from previous regimes of Marvel at different studios talking about coming back in more movies as their characters.
Many upcoming Marvel movies that we now know involve X-Men. Are there chances that we will see him as a supporting character?
I do think so. I think if Deadpool becomes an Avenger or an X-Men, we're at the end. That's his wish fulfillment, and you can't give him that.
There have been a couple specific projects that he's tried to tease. He didn't say they were outright happening, but he did imply that there was more talk going on around them than some of the other more recent stuff. For instance, you have all the chair watch stuff with Channing Tatum's Gambit showing up in that Avengers Doomsday trailer they released. He even talked as if the Channing Tatum Gambit movie was more of a reality now than before, even though I don't expect them to actually make it. I've talked about this a while ago, but the funny thing is that Ryan Reynolds kind of willed a couple movies into existence with Deadpool and Wolverine, like through the making of that movie. He tried with Wesley Snipes' Blade to get him a Logan-style send-off movie the way that Hugh Jackman's Logan was meant to be a send-off movie for that character. Then he said when they were talking about Channing Tatum's Gambit character is that before the movie came out, before Deadpool and Wolverine came out, there was no intention to ever bring Channing Tatum back as a version of Gambit, but after Kevin Feige and all the Marvel powers that be that actually write all these checks to make these movies saw Channing Tatum as Gambit in this movie, they got way more excited about bringing him back as more Gambit in the future. In effect, sort of willing his Gambit back into existence in the idea of doing another Gambit movie. Like you said, Kevin Feige is much more excited about the idea of doing more Gambit, just in general in the future of the MCU. Channing Tatum talked a lot about his Gambit movie the way it existed when they were still trying to make it back at Fox when they still owned the X-Men characters. It was actually meant to be a prequel movie before he joined the X-Men team, when he was still with the Marauders, and he was going to be working for Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister was going to be the main villain of that movie. That was what the whole X-Men Apocalypse post-credit scene with Essex Corp and Wolverine's blood was all about. Essex Corp is for Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister. The way that Channing Tatum explains it, he said that the good thing about Deadpool and Wolverine is that he got to wear that very comic book accurate Gambit suit, but if they'd actually wound up making his Gambit movie, like if it didn't fall through before Disney bought Fox, he would not have got to wear that costume, because when he was with Marauders before he joined the X-Men, he didn't have that suit. So he wouldn't have been wearing that suit during his Gambit movie. Sean Levy, who directed Deadpool and Wolverine, also said that he was one of the directors that they actually brought in to meet with Channing Tatum about making his Gambit movie. So them doing Deadpool and Wolverine together was a bit of a reunion for them, with him doing Gambit.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Now, the short-term plan for Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine too, he's like the other side of this coin too. Like, you can't really talk about Deadpool coming back without also talking about Hugh Jackman coming back as his Wolverine. They will make them do this until they're 90 because they made so much money. He's probably the most popular character that Marvel has right now. Originally, they were going to do Deadpool and Wolverine and then just bring them back for Avengers 6 Secret Wars, but after the movie did gangbusters money, like well over $1 billion, Kevin Feige said that they want to bring the characters back as soon as possible, as much as possible. What I think that translates to is just putting them in Avengers 5 as well as Avengers 6 Secret Wars. Maybe not as huge characters, because Avengers 5 Doomsday is mostly about Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom character coming to the MCU and fighting the main 616 version of the new Avengers. That might be the Thunderbolts characters who become the new Avengers, but also the traditional surviving Avengers after Avengers Endgame and like the main new superheroes who joined the new Avengers team. There's a whole subplot with the Thunderbolts becoming a version of the Dark Avengers, but using the name New Avengers, like stealing the thunder, so to speak, make all the puns you want from the New Avengers and using the name themselves. But that's meant to be a whole separate thing from the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom of it all. Then the rest of Avengers 5 is mostly meant to be a version of Time Runs Out from the comics, and the Doctor Doom storyline from that, like that will basically be Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. He'll be doing a similar things as Doctor Doom was doing during Time Runs Out. So there's a little bit of multiverse stuff going on, and you have to remember that at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine go back to the main X-Men universe, so if they're going to show up in the MCU, there has to be another way to explain why that happens. It's a little easier to explain why they're in Avengers 6 Secret Wars, just because that movie will probably invoke a little bit of Battleworld from the more recent Secret Wars comics, so you have all these other multiverse characters that just appear on Battleworld. They're supposed to form a multiverse Avengers team against God Emperor Doom, Robert Downey Jr. Then they'll repair the multiverse, all these different universes, and use it as a soft reboot point for the MCU so that it more closely resembles the comic book 616 universe going forward, where like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men characters all coexist on the same Earth with the Avengers and all the pre-existing Marvel characters. And nobody will think it's weird that the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, for example, mutants in general, have always been around. No weird continuity issues about explaining where people have been this whole time.
In the world, a left hand. Do you know? I'm gonna blow your mind. I've been drinking coffee all morning.
Pretty much everybody's doing a soft reboot on their comic book universes. Looking at you, Sony, over in the Spider-Man adjacent universe like the Venom universe. You also keep in mind that Captain America 4, Thunderbolts, in the new Fantastic Four movie are the only movies before Avengers 5 comes out, so they already got a whole bunch of plans to cameo Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom character in that new Fantastic Four movie. He is like the star of like the very end or like the post-credit scene of that movie. I don't expect to see Deadpool during that. And Thunderbolts also feels like a very Earth-based movie, so I'm not expecting any Deadpool cameos in those either. Meaning that most of the brand new Deadpool crossovers that Ryan Reynolds is talking about doing instead of doing Deadpool 4 are likely after Secret Wars when they start in the core X-Men phase, like Marvel Phase 7, the Mutant Saga begins. There is the brand new solo X-Men movie that Kevin Feige is working on set in the main universe where they're going to recast a lot of the characters. Not everybody, like they're not going to recast Wolverine yet because Hugh Jackman will still be the main version of Wolverine. But after Secret Wars, all those characters, including Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, will be on the main version of Earth with everybody else. So honestly, if he's talking about being like the fifth banana in somebody else's big movie, a really good big team-up movie for that would be the new X-Men movie. You don't even have to put him in like the main part of the movie, just use him for like a funny post-credit scene, teasing more Deadpool stuff. But honestly, I'd really like to see him in more rated R stories. Meaning that he'd probably work in a slightly smaller movie, so I'm okay with him not being in the new main X-Men movie the first time one comes out. What I think they're probably going to do, though, is they'll start planning out all their X-Men movies and X-Men adjacent mutant-based movies, and then find the best place for Deadpool to team up in one of those, one of the movies that can be a little bit more hardcore. There's a bunch of other stuff that they talk about during their interview, too. Like, there's a bunch of funny jokes that Ryan Reynolds makes about Spider-Man, Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield coming back as his Spider-Man. For example, he tells Andrew Garfield that he was the best part of that movie and that Tom Holland should be angry. He's made a couple of Tom Holland jokes before, but I would love to see Deadpool cross over with Spider-Man in a movie. The only problem with that is that if it is Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the main MCU, it'd probably have to be a PG-13 movie, meaning that he'd really have to pull back on a lot of the jokes. But we will probably see Deadpool cross over or have moments with a version of Spider-Man at some point, because we did see him reference Spider-Man during Deadpool and Wolverine, so he has met a version of Spider-Man before, but he never revealed which version of Spider-Man he met. But everyone let me know in the comments, what do you actually want them to do for Deadpool and Wolverine 2 or Deadpool 4, whatever you want to call that movie? Who do you actually want to show up in that? Because we're talking like 4 or 5 years minimum down the road. Like, it's going to be a good long while before they actually attempt another Deadpool movie. You just have to picture Ryan Reynolds pitching like 50 other movies to Kevin Feige. What they'll probably do is wait till Marvel hits another fallow point and they need to make fun of themselves again, and they'll just let Deadpool do that. Like, whenever things really hit the fan, then Deadpool will walk out again. Just in terms of all the crazy lawsuit stuff going on behind the scenes, people have been asking if that's going to have any kind of effect of his future as Deadpool at Marvel, if Kevin Feige cares about any of that stuff. Generally, no. I think the outcome with all that, like all that drama behind the scenes, is that it will all end in a settlement. That is the way that all lawsuits like that end in Hollywood, a settlement out of court. Generally, I would advise not wasting time trying to keep up with that. It does not matter. Speaking of big Marvel stuff happening this week, we have the Thunderbolts coming out. I just posted a new video for that. Click here for that, and click here for that brand new Fantastic Four trailer video for no particular reason, like a bunch of Fantastic Four stuff going to be happening real soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Maximum effort.